everyone. Yesterday I went with my son to go see Godzilla Minus One, and I was going to do just quick little tidbits on it that let you know I very much enjoyed the movie, and I encourage y'all to go see it on the big screen because Godzilla is big. I mean, unfortunately, it wasn't playing on the IMAX, so it also helped get the bad taste of seeing the Napoleon movie the previous week out of my head. That movie still makes me think, what did I just see? Anyway, there's a lot of professional. I looked on YouTube, and there's some really good movie reviewers that are professional. They have professional cameras. They have really good channels. And one of the reasons I don't monetize my channels because one, I wouldn't know how to even do it, and two, it's a small channel, and I started this channel mainly to support my students. Now that I'm not teaching anymore, and I've been subbing history a lot lately. Not a whole lot of math, even though in the history classes they all come up to me and ask for help on their math homework. It's kind of fun. But I just did world history and world geography, and those kids are just sweet. They're awesome. They're great kids. Anyway, back to Godzilla. So I really enjoyed the movie. I've been a Godzilla fan. My son, not so much. In fact, I remember showing him. Might have even been the original, but it was one of the Godzilla ones. You know, some got really kind of silly with the Son of Godzilla and so on. But I showed him one when he was little, probably too young, 6, 7 years old maybe, and he never wanted to see another one again. I'm thinking, how can this be? Godzilla's like a classic. And I pulled up the Godzilla 1954. It's almost like an anniversary for them. And if you're a fan of the 1954 version, you're going to like a lot of the things that are in this one. Just little subtle things that are similar between the two movies. But of course, the music is pretty awesome. And what is really good about Godzilla Minus One is it goes far more than Godzilla. It's about a story of a young man who's having all kinds of life issues. And I don't want to do any spoilers on this, but there's romance involved. There's loss, because this takes place, actually, it starts off right at the closing days of World War II, which kind of throws off the metaphor a little bit. And if y'all have looked into Godzilla before, there's a metaphor with Japan's destruction in World War II, the atomic bombings, and a lot of association with the defeat that they had to deal with. And it throws it off a little bit when they introduce Godzilla a little bit earlier than that, in my opinion. So this takes place, I think, in 53 or 54. And they had to do some, definitely see it on the big screen. It's cool. Anyway, they had to do some alternative history. Now, unlike Napoleon, where they botched the history, I have no problem with alternative history. I've read a lot of alternative history books, including, the 1631, was it? 17? It was a David Weber book where a whole West Virginia town goes back in time. Anyway, alternative history is kind of fun. Let's see, Harry Turtledove is famous for that kind of work. And I have no problem with it. Absolutely none. It explained why the Americans weren't involved in fighting Godzilla. And I think that was an important part of the plot they wanted to drive in. But the fun little things, if you're World of Tanks or War Thunder fans, you're going to start seeing things like the Type 4 Cheeto tanks. Cheeto? Don't know how to pronounce it. You would think. I mean, gosh, I've been to Japan a few times. But what's interesting is they only made 2 of these, and they got tossed in the lake. And they were going to make, I don't know if the assault gun was in the movie or not. I haven't found that scene. But it's cool that they put these tanks in there. And then they had the Shinden, which the only existing one that I know of that's authentic from that time period is in the Smithsonian, and that's kind of torn apart. I saw that when I was there a few years ago. But they completely did a whole new model for the movie, and what I read was they put this in the museum, the Peace Museum there in Japan. It's pretty cool. So there's a lot of little things they took care to do the sets, the buildings, the problems that they had with the cleanup, so many little things. And there was a lot of scenes that made me think, I remember that from the 1954 version. So it was kind of pretty cool. So the alternative history did not bother me at all. It did not. There was a little bit on some of the plot lines that I thought were a little bit more. And the director is the same one, I didn't know this until I looked it up, that did the War of Archimedes, about the battleship Yamato and Musashi. That was... Now, I had problems with that history. They did botch some of that. But it was still an enjoyable movie. But I'm thinking, they're going a little bit too far on the propaganda there. So I highly recommend this movie. Don't be bothered by the alternative history. It doesn't necessarily make sense. Because during that time frame, this was Korean War. We had a lot of troops in Japan. A lot of forces. Alrighty, so that is pretty much it. Alexa Reviews is her channel, so I recommend that. Or just go into YouTube, you'll find a ton of them. So I'll give this an 8 out of 10 stars, definitely. Whereas Napoleon was like 4 out of 10. So definitely worth the money. And if you can see it on IMAX, even better. Alrighty, y'all take care.